Thou shalt bring me a plate of French fries. You may not have any. Hey humans, I'm Amanda Montell, and this is The Dirty Word, where sex and language get it on. Today I'm going to be talking about a topic that a few of my lovely social media followers requested: the history of gendered language, specifically pronouns in English. Oh man, never has grammar been such a hot topic in the United States than it is today. It seems like every magazine article, social media network, even official institution is talking about gender-neutral pronouns, which in English we've come to understand as using the word they to describe just one person who doesn't identify with either of the gendered pronouns our language offers, he and she. People have really strong feelings about this topic. Some people think that using the plural word they to describe just one person goes against the basic rules of English grammar and is just way too inaccurate and confusing. Others argue that it's really not that hard to use this word, which already exists, in a slightly new way, and that refusing to do so is an attack on trans and gender non-conforming people. Then the people who refuse to use singular they attack the people in favor of it for being drama queens, and we just end up with this whole insane political mess, all based on one tiny, teeny monosyllabic word. Here's the thing though. When we look back at the history of English pronouns, all those grammar-based arguments against singular they kind of unravel, ultimately revealing that these discussions of gender-neutral pronouns aren't really about words at all. Underneath, what's really happening is a debate about identity and beliefs that's all bubbling up to the surface just because we so happen to have this one instance in English where human gender and grammatical gender meet: pronouns. Think that's complicated? There are so many more languages, about a quarter of the world's languages in fact, where gender can be found in way more places than pronouns. You're probably familiar with one of these languages, like French or Spanish, Italian or German, where every noun is assigned a gender, masculine or feminine, and some languages have neuter too. For example, in the Italian sentence, il vino è sulla tavola, meaning the wine is on the table, the word wine, vino, is masculine. The word for table, tavola, is feminine. Obviously the gender of each noun in this sentence doesn't have anything to do with human gender. Just because the Italian word for wine, vino, is masculine and the Italian word for table, tavola, is feminine doesn't mean that Italian people think of tables as inherently girly objects and wine as inherently macho. Although sometimes in these languages, a noun's gender assignment does influence how its speakers perceive what that noun is, what it means on human gender terms, but that's an entirely different topic and very complicated. If you want to know more about it though, stay tuned for my book, Wordy, which will be published in spring 2019. Shameless plug. Anywho, this system of noun classification is called grammatical gender. And it's different than what we have going on in English, where nouns don't get a gender assignment. Our system is called natural gender. The only gendered words that we have, husband, wife, man, woman, actor, actress, ostensibly correspond to the gender of the person we're talking about. Assigning gender to inanimate objects like they do in Italian might sound exotic to us English speakers, but 1,000 years ago, we actually did it too. Back in the days of Old English, we totally divided our nouns into 3 different classes: masculine, feminine, and neuter, which is a structure that still exists in many related languages, like German. How we got to our current, very different system has a lot to do with history and war. It's very dramatic, but I'll sum it up really quick. Basically, back in 1066, the Norman conquest happened in England, where this crazy William the Conqueror man swept into the region, bringing along with him an old form of French. This mixed with Old English, the languages fused and evolved in a number of complicated ways, Middle English happened, and eventually we found ourselves with our current system of natural gender. The odd thing though is that according to a linguist named Gretchen McCullough, the fact that our gendered pronouns he and she didn't disappear with the rest of English's grammatical gender is kind of unique. As McCullough wrote in an article for The Toast a couple of years ago, it is quite weird cross-linguistically to lack a grammatical gender system and yet still encode natural gender on one tiny set of grammaticalized words, aka your pronouns. In other words, this is the big reason why pronouns get so much attention in English. They're the only form of grammatically embedded gender we have left. By the way, there are plenty of languages around the world that don't have gendered pronouns at all. Hungarian, Finnish, and Swahili are a few examples. Generally, in these languages, everybody gets the same genderless pronoun. In fact, in some of these languages, there are barely any gendered words at all. Like in Swahili, there is no gender distinction between actor and actress, lion, lioness, comedian, comedienne. That's a favorite. There are no pronoun controversies. Sounds so simple. Speaking of pronoun controversies, let's go back to singular they. People love to make the argument that using a plural pronoun to refer to one person is grammatically incorrect and way too confusing. The flaw in that logic, of course, is that people have been using they as a gender non-specific third-person singular pronoun for hundreds of years. Take a sentence like, someone left their coffee mug in the sink. Someone left their coffee mug in the sink. Singular they, totally natural. People have been using it like this since Middle English. Not to mention, this isn't the first time that a plural pronoun has been used for a singular meaning in our language. A few hundred years ago, the second person pronoun you was just meant as a plural. Thou was the singular version. Thou shalt bring me a plate of French fries. You may not have any. People started to use you as a singular pronoun too, and thou eventually died out. Who's to say the same thing couldn't happen with they? Looking at history and languages around the world, there's really no good reason why they shouldn't be used as a singular third-person pronoun right next to he and she. Over the years, queer communities have tried to propose brand new gender-neutral singular pronouns like ze and here, but they just seems to be the one that's sticking best. After all, it's already a word, and there's nothing about the fundamental rules of human language that says that the context in which we use it can't shift slightly if we want it to. Still, there are totally people out there, regular people, using grammar rules as their justification for refusing to use singular they. They themselves might not even realize that when you look deeper, that grammar argument is just a red herring, a distraction from the fact that their real problem isn't non-binary grammar, it's non-binary identity. And if that's really your problem, language can't help you, because you have to be on board with the idea of something, with the social reform, before you can be on board with the language reform. But regardless of what people believe, language moves. It's moving right now. Look at history. It's moving. Are you gonna move with it? Thank you all so much for watching this episode of The Dirty Word. I hope you found it educational. This was just the tip of the iceberg of a very complicated topic, so if you have any questions about the history of gendered pronouns in English or gendered language in general, please leave them in the comments below. I will answer them for you, and remember, stay dirty.